Good afternoon to everybody who's joined us today. Namaste, namaskaram, salam alaikum, all of our friends who've joined us from around the world. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Sportscast. What we try to do with Sportscast is we try to bring sports innovators, sports people, people very committed to making sports a really big deal in India and actually growing the industry from where it is to where it should be. So today I have a very interesting person with me. The founder rather, not even co-founder, founder of a wonderful, fantastic device called Free Bowler. Believe me, something like Free Bowler doesn't actually have a lot of tech in it, and by tech I mean technology. There is actually a really cool system that is in place for something like Free Bowler, and obviously the way cricket has grown in our country. And free bowler is something that coincides very well into the way cricket is viewed and actually come into our country as well. So Pratik, thank you very much for being part of our show, and obviously the first episode. So what does cricket? I mean, what is it that makes people go crazy when they when they see cricket or hear about cricket?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Abhijit. Firstly, thanks for having me over. Then that's a cool intro. In fact, I was just going back in my mind as to how we've gone backwards in terms of technology. So me being a mechanical engineer, of course, you're a mechanical engineer yourself, so we can connect as to how important it is to innovate things, not necessarily have technology integrated. Of course, technology is great; it makes the life easier. But then there are so many other ways to build simple products and then help the lives of the people easier. So having said that, so to your point on what it means for people when we say cricket, yeah, cricket is just more than a sport. I mean, like growing up, it is like, for us, for a lot of people in India, it's like a way of life. It's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's like it just runs in the blood. We breathe cricket in some capacity. A lot of people who have played cricket, it's just a part of their DNA. But even otherwise, a lot of people are dependent on cricket for their lives. It's responsible for people's livelihood. It's responsible for people's happiness in a lot of ways. So it just, yeah, more than a sport, it's religion. It's in the top three things that we do here in India. So I think, I mean, it's a great thing for a country like India, which is the world's second most populous country. We are the youngest country in 2021. We'll continue to be a young country. So with just the sheer population and youth energy we have, something like cricket just binds us all together. So that's how I see it.
I just want to pick up on what you just said. Binding all of us together, right? So there's something that me and a lot of my friends, we talk about how Kapil Dev's 1983 World Cup, that's actually what set a cricket industry in place. And today you have, I think, the BCCI invests a lot of money into developing cricket academies, cricket facilities for more talent and things like that, right? So specifically, I think, like you also mentioned, cricket is more. It's a religion. It's an emotion. What apart from these things, what does cricket mean specifically to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Once again, I was just also once again going back in my mind to a piece of statement that was made by Mark Cuban, whom I look up to. Mark Cuban
Right,
is
right.
of course one of the most successful entrepreneurs, and then sports franchisee owner we all look up to as innovators and entrepreneurs and whatnot. So he did say that at some point in his life, like there's no other business in the world that is celebrated outside of sports. If you look at the successes of companies like Apple and Facebooks and like the Googles, and Teslas of the world, nobody celebrates their victories. But then when it comes to sports, it just like, it just brings people together, and then we celebrate the victory of a team. At the end of the day, they're all running businesses, but then it just like, brings people together, and then people celebrate it. And then even for me, it's just a joy. Just like, it brings so much more into my life. It's like a lot of times my a certain part of my life is actually dependent on how well my team does. It could be RCB, it could be Team India. We've all been there. If our team is not doing well, then our energy is kind of fluctuate. So we are in fact driving a lot of energy from how our favorite players do on the field on a particular day, how our team does. So RCB won, so I'm all high. So it just makes it much more easier for me to get through my day, navigate my emotions, and then get a lot more done. So it just makes me more productive. So that's what it means to me. So that's what I look up to. And then it just brings a lot of enthusiasm into me. I hope it's the same for a lot of other people, and that's why it's just more than it's a force. It's just an energy, is what I feel.
Very interesting that you mentioned you're an RCB fan. How happy are you watching AB de Villiers play yesterday night? That was that was pretty something special, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I caught up towards the last half. In fact, I was not able to because of other engagements that I had. But then, yeah, I caught up on the highlights, and then the last few overs, I'm like, like AB de Villiers, we're just fortunate enough to have somebody like AB de Villiers. Is like, I mean, even for cricket, he's just more than a player. He's like, he brings so much into the game. Of course, we have had Sachin Tendulkar, we have had Virat Kohli, we've had a lot of players across the world, Brain Charles Lara, and like everybody from different parts of it. Like AB de Villiers just brings so much more into the game. Just he being a human being himself, and just like what he brings onto the field, both from a game standpoint and from a human standpoint, just amazing. It's just like every time you just never get tired of watching that man. So yeah, just very happy that way.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? So coming back, let's get back to free bowler. So this is actually something when I think when somebody was telling me about you, they were telling me that they were actually telling me your story, which is actually what got me very excited. So growing up, you didn't have anyone to bowl to you when you were batting. From what I understand, so you go on and then you invent a device called Free Bowler, which is actually, it's I believe it's something that slings that actually can be used as a slinging machine, or something that can bowl at batsmen, right, to help them hone their skills and things like that. So first, I just want to validate or verify that story. That is obviously one, and second is you can as a mechanical engineer, speaking mechanical engineer to mechanical engineer, what is the innovation that is there, because it's a super innovative product.
Yeah, thanks for that once again. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of background about myself. In fact, I finished my schooling up until class 10, till I was 15 years old. I did it in a small town off of Bangalore called Tumkur. I went to Bishop Sargent School,
Right.
which was a branch of, which is still a branch of Bishop Cotton. So Bangalore, of course, if you look at Karnataka, Bangalore is pretty much the only place. Of course, to an extent, Mysore has gotten there. But then if you look outside of Bangalore, other places like Tumkur, Dharwad, Davangere, or beat any other, top other towns, the infrastructure is just not quite there. So for me to have access to proper training aids or access to coaches was becoming so much more difficult. I did at some point believe that I was good enough to be playing the cricket at the highest level, but then of course I couldn't justify that with my parents. For them to be able to push them to a point where I could be pursuing that as a professional career, or being that as a passion. So I had to give up. I mean, at some point we've all been there, right? We had to make a choice between academics and sports. Back then IPL was still not a thing. So there was nothing much for our parents to look up to except for what we presented to them. So I was always there was always there on the back of my mind that I had to do something about it. I am so much attached to the game. It just runs in my blood, but I was not able to do more than that. So that was that. And then I went to the United States. Even there, the same kind of problem persisted. Cricket is still not a mainstream sport in the US, so I went to the United States to do my masters. So be it here in India or be in the United States, I kind of still had the same challenges with cricket training. Here in India, we play cricket day in and day out. We don't necessarily miss cricket, but in the United States, people are far apart. So I had to drive to a local practice facility, arrange for a club practice session, which was proving to be expensive at that time. So it's like, I'm 25 years into my life, and then the first 15 years I've not gotten enough cricket practice, and the next few years I'm not able to get enough. So what am I going to do about it? So I had to do something about it. So that's exactly how it started. I was just trying to look for something which could fulfill my cricket training needs or desires, or however you want to put it across. So all I was looking to buy was an inexpensive non-electric portable ball thrower, which could throw real cricket balls, because I wanted to play sound cricket. I didn't want to play with those plastic coated dimple balls. It just didn't make any sense to me at that point.
Right.
So like cricket has been around for 100 years as a professional sport, or even more than that. I was so surprised to just not find anything. I thought, like, you just go up on Amazon and just type for what you're looking for, and then it would just pop up. So nothing like that existed. And I was, at the same time, I was also doing my final year master's thesis. I took the concept to my professor and I said, hey, look, there's nothing like this in cricket, and I'm also looking for a project concept. Why don't I do this, because I like what I'm doing. I think there's definitely something more to this. And my professor was like, immediately was like, yeah, definitely, I think you've got something, just go ahead and do it. So within 2 months, I got additional funding from the university. The university supported the project because they too saw some value in it as an academic project to be taken to the next level. And 6 months down the line, we got some funding from the local government organization in the United States, because they too saw some value for the product to be used in baseball as well, because even baseball doesn't have a non-electric
Okay.
ball pitcher. So that's kind of how it all started. So pretty much, what I was trying to solve was, build an accessible, affordable, and convenient training aid, which solves the limitations with the ball throwing existing bowling machines in terms of cost, portability, and use of electricity. So that's as simple and basic as it could get. Yeah, that's the story behind it.
So I was actually just reading somewhere, the best of innovations actually come to us with the most amount of limitations, where we don't have any technology involved, we don't have any electricity involved. So take us through what exactly is the machine, and how can it help a batsman, be it in baseball, be it in cricket, and also if it can be used in any other sport, like tennis, for example.
Of course, yeah, it's a purely, like you pointed out, it's a purely mechanical version, in the sense it doesn't
Right.
require any electricity, no batteries. It just built of pure mild steel components, sheet metal tubes. So the basic construction material or the mechanical equipment material that we find on the market is just built using the frame, and the build structure, if you look at it, is actually we have imitated it to be a bowler, like a human. Like if you look at the release point, it's matched to a height of an average Indian cricketer who's 5'8", 5'9", and then the footprint of the machine is also as big or long as the stride of a cricket bowler. So we've tried to keep it as simple and basic, trying to mimic, because all I wanted to do personally was to get as close as possible to a realistic match scenario as possible, because that's one thing that was missing in other pitching machines or bowling machines. It just didn't feel like a real bowler. It just didn't feel like playing in a real game. So the idea was to develop a machine in a very simplistic manner, keeping it very portable, keeping it very inexpensive, building off-the-shelf components that are readily available in the market, but still be able to be able to deliver and then pull off an experience that gets as close to possible to a real game. So having said that, this bowling machine can throw real cricket balls. It's got a simulation of a bowler, unlike the other pitching machines where you just got two wheels and then it spits the ball, it squeezes the ball out of a hole, where there is no real bowling action, kind of a simulation. So we've tried to address that as well. So it's just a human form of a piece of a metal equipment put together to be able to throw real cricket balls. So in much more simplistic ways, it's just a improvisation of it's just a catapult, it's just a trebuchet that we have improvised it to be used in cricket. If yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And can it be used in other sport? I think you mentioned baseball as well. Do you think a product or a product or a device such as this can potentially have an application in, say, tennis, where there are devices which, like you said, spits the ball out, and people play their tennis strokes. I'm a former tennis player, so obviously I would ask those questions with a passion for cricket. So which other sports do you see something like free bowler being used?
Yes, yes. Sorry, I missed that part. But yeah, to your point, yeah. So when we first filed our patent, our patent attorney was like, you got to keep it as broad as possible, right? So we named it
Okay.
as projectile launching machine. So having said that, when we say projectile launching machine, of course, it could be used for other sports. Of course, we have to redesign it, we have to tweak it to be able to use in other sports. Of course, all ball throwing sports. Say, for example, it could be volleyball. You could just scale up the entire machine what we have and then still be used for a sport like volleyball. You could redesign it, slightly tweak it to be used for tennis, for of course the game better than I do in terms for practicing all your shots, serve from the other side and things of that nature. It could be the miniature version could also be used for as simple as a game like not simple game but then a smaller game like table tennis. So all projectile launching ball applications definitely has scope. It's just that we have started with cricket because that makes us more feel comfortable. I've played the game myself. I've represented university. I've been a part of the Karnataka State Association, zonal teams, district, state teams growing up. So I do have some connections over there. So just made sense for us to start with cricket. Of course, we'll slowly transition into baseball, which is a similar sport like cricket. Of course, we have plans to work with other channel partners or maybe design teams in the other sports who can pick up our sport. Maybe we can work on some kind of a technology transfer arrangement or engagement where other people would collaborate with us, integrate technology if they see fit in terms of technology, as in like the software part of it, and then make it much more applicable to their sport. So we do have those in the pipeline.
Okay, that is awesome. That is music to my ears, actually. Something that actually simulates as close to the sport as possible. I'm all game for that. So,
Great.
okay, so now coming back to, I think we spoke about the IPL and AB de Villiers and all of that. So how closely, I actually even saw a few ads, where you worked with people like Ravichandran Ashwin and all of that, right? So how quick are cricketers today to embrace a product like Free Bowler?
Yeah, that's a very good question once again. So yeah, to your point. So we launched this product in late 2018, sometime October, early October, and then it's been 2.5 years since the time we launched our product. So we're currently in about 15 countries. Pretty much we have covered all the target market segments, right from schools, academies, clubs, sports facilities, individual cricket players. When we say individual cricket players, professional to amateur, and everybody in between. So we're also working with other channel partners for sales, marketing, distribution. So having said that, the point I was trying to make here was that we've been in the space for a while. Of course, we've had opportunities to work with professional players, and then when it comes to adaptability or people being open to new ideas and innovation, of course cricketers are definitely looking for newer innovations. They want to try it, they want to experiment. And then Ravichandran Ashwin, he came along, and then we were fortunately able to strike a conversation with him through LinkedIn. And of course social media does a great job in kind of merging that space and then crunching it, making it easy for people to reach out and accessible, have meaningful conversations. So Ravichandran Ashwin, he being an engineer himself, and then Ravichandran Ashwin is of course known for innovation with his carom ball, and then a lot of other things he does on the field. So that caught his attention, like what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. So he was like quickly able to see through what we were in the early days, and then he was like, I'll try and help you guys out with as much as I can. So that's how we onboarded him. Is our brand ambassador. We've been working with him for the last 2.5 years as well. So it's been great. He's helped us get into places like Kings 11 Punjab, IPL franchisee teams, the Tamil Nadu Ranji teams, and the other teams. They were practicing with Tamil Nadu teams. So we've worked with a few Ranji teams and other IPL franchisees as well. So at the highest level, to be very honest with you, when it comes to adoption of new technology, They want to see a series of case studies or use case scenarios, and then how much of a product like this has been used, and then they want data, because for the most part it's not actually the players who are making those
Right.
decisions. The
Right.
coaching system, you want to convince the coaches before it's been introduced to a player, because during the time of IPL, the times are so sensitive in the sense that they don't want to affect the mindset of a player at all, not even by a small percentage. So you introduce a new product, and then they play and miss, and then they don't get used to this new product, and then it starts playing on their mind. So they don't even want a small piece of element of doubt to be created in players' mind. That's how coaches look at players, and that's how players are safeguarded when it comes to IPL. But then in other
Right.
places, they are very open to new technologies, because they do have other interest where they could be a part of another academy. Although they're a coach of a state team or a Ranji team, they still be managing a small clubs in their hometowns and whatnot. So they are willing to look and pick up inexpensive other innovative training aids that helps kids in their natives and whatnot. So it's a mix. It's a fine balance between what you want to offer to a professional player, and then where it comes from, versus how much do they want to introduce a new product into the grassroots system. So it's very interesting, and then we've gone through that process, and then we're still in the process. So there's definitely a lot to learn from that.
Right. Right. Fantastic. Fantastic. And talking about cricket itself today, right, in
Mhm.
India, in recent times we've actually started to see a lot of, I think even Harsha Bogle spoke about this. We start to see a lot of talent coming in from the smaller cities, your
Mhm.
tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, maybe as well. Right. So, actually, in the case of this current IPL, or I mean, not just the IPL, I mean, we look at people like Mohammad Siraj, or somebody like a Chetan Sakaria, who's come in through the Rajasthan Royals this year. Um, how much of do you see cricket as something that brings people out of poverty? I wouldn't say poverty, but out of the lower middle class, and do you see that happening even in terms of sports innovation for something like if somebody can invent a device like how you've done, from somebody from a tier 2 city, for example. What kind of scope do you see for people like that to be able to invent devices like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's just like, IPL as a whole. I mean, we have to thank IPL and BCCI and everybody who's a part of that to be able to make this actually possible for, players. I wish we had something like this too, like, starting in 2000, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, it started luckily in 2008. It's definitely not a bad thing. I mean, like, for people, be it in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities or metropolitan cities, it's just, providing platforms and opportunities for every player. And it's just one whole game of merit. I mean, if you have access to the right training infrastructure, and then if you have access to technology and information, you could still make your way up towards it. And then it is now being possible because these IPL franchisee teams do have an extended network where they have scouts, they have cricket development programs, they have a dedicated system in place where these scouts are sent out to these tier 2, tier 3 cities to pick up raw talent. So the identification and recognition process is much more, it's in place versus it was not in place. So there's
Right.
definitely possibilities. It's like for people, for like like the Sakarias and these rats of the world, for them to be able to get there, then make a living. So I mean, it's great. It's amazing. I mean, it's such a great, inspiring stories for people in their hometowns to believe in what they're doing. So that's one part. I mean, if you could make it to the IPL, of course, you will have a great standard of living, or of course you'll be able to lead a good standard life. But then even otherwise, there's so many other tournaments that are derivatives of IPL, and there's certain right from district level to taluk level to you just go down to every lowest point or part in the country. There's still some form of a cricket that is associated, affiliated officially or unofficially, and then you could still make a living out of it. You could still make a decent living. You could still be playing the sport, and then earning, and then you could still have a part-time job or a full-time job. So it's now definitely possible. I mean, that's what IPL does and cricket does to this country. We free bowler as a cricket training company or a product innovation company, we are a dependent business. We are depending on IPL and cricket and BCCI. So to your point, it's a two-way thing. Like, one, it motivates people like us, like innovators. In even tier 2 tier 3 cities, because somebody in tier 2 tier 3 city has the same access, same amount of information access as I do, because everybody has their cell phones, smartphones, thanks to Reliance Jio for that as well, who are again big part of the IPL, who are funding the operations and things of that nature. So they're making information more accessible to people. So people in those cities look up to what's happening at the IPL level, and then they're motivated to innovate something. That's for engineers and innovators. And then you look at players, and then they're also looking at the same picture, but then they're cricketers in their capacities. So it still works both ways. I mean, it's still a win-win scenario. We're still in the very early days. This has to at least go on for another 5-10 years. The next decade, we'll see a lot more. What innovation that we're proud to have invented something, but then this will be like a norm. Like we'll be normalizing such small innovations, which will be localized, which people develop it for themselves, so that they can make their cricket training infrastructure better locally, and then which could also have global exposure and visibility, and then players will also come out of such ecosystems. So it's great in a way.
Yeah, very, very, very nice. I mean, the kind of opportunities that something like sports actually opens up for people in tier 2, tier 3 cities. It's something really amazing. So I think I'd like to conclude with by asking you. There are very few of us who have actually had the opportunity or continue to have the opportunity to work in sports, right? Like you and like me, who actually have worked with football teams, cricket teams. Um, what is it that you, or rather, it's more of an advice that you would give to, say college students or 18, 19, 20-year olds who are actually looking to build careers in sports? Because now we have colleges that are actually offering sports management and sports innovation as subjects. So what is the one or two things that you would probably tell a youngster who's trying to build a career in sport?
Yeah, absolutely. You made a very valid point. I mean, like the number of universities and colleges offering sports management as a professional degree and a mainstream degree is amazing. That's great for the country like ours. Then people like us, I wish I could have taken sports management as well. But then, yeah, I'm not complaining. It's all great. It'd still be one and the same. But then, yeah, to your point, the kids should definitely take advantage of this. I don't think I mean, it's of course it's going to get better, but then the timing of is so perfect that people have to take initiatives. The two pieces of advice I'd have is that make use of LinkedIn. I mean, there's absolutely no better place than social media platform. Not just LinkedIn. People could find opportunities. They just have to follow their heart. They just have to put in work off the field. I mean, in the sense that be diligent about what they're doing, go after the right set of people, introduce themselves. So they have to be willing to do some free work, as in like have to build reputation. You have to build some track record and history for somebody to take a look at and make that hiring decision, or be a part of RCB setup in some capacity and whatnot. So it's really important for these kids. I mean, including myself, I'm a kid too. I'm 29, so I still have to put in the same amount of work. The same applies for even 18-year-old, 19-year-old, or 29-year-old. You just have to take advantage of the current social media, the life, the society, the technological world we are living in. Start reaching out to people. It does work, and just be willing to do more free work, and then put some wins on your board, build a portfolio, and then I mean, then that's all. I mean, everybody will take off from there.
Right. So, youngsters, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. This gentleman with me, beside me on this call, has been working in cricket since 2018, and he's built such a cool product. So, Pratik, actually, we've been getting a few questions from a few people who actually been watching this. So, the first question I have is, according to you, what is the most influential innovation in cricket? That's it. That's a very interesting question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I do
Especially
look
with
at
DRS and all the controversy that's going on
right.
with DRS, you never know.
I mean, so that's a very open-ended, I mean, a very broad question as well. So I do
Yeah.
follow trends in Western parts as to what's going on. Of course, with there are multiple ways you can look at it. Esports and fantasies. Even esports is in place in different parts of the world. So I'm a little disappointed that cricket doesn't have a dedicated esports in place. As in, like, that is backed by the IPLs and the BCCIs or the ICCs, because you have the NFL and the MLB, backing their own sport. It's a part of their ecosystem where the fan extension strategy and things of that nature. So to your point, the coolest innovation we have had in cricket so far, I mean, it's just like the T20 format itself. It's just the nature of the format is such that it just, like, appeals to everybody. But other sports, you look at MLB, you look at NFL, of course there are other derivatives of sports, soccer and whatnot, but then MLB has not innovated, but then we cricketers have innovated and then introduced the T20 format. So I think there's a lot of scope for innovation in the sport, the derivative of T20 sports, making it more appealing to younger audience, and then redesigning, repackaging it in a format that, like, speaks to the lower attention volumes of the people. So T20 has done a great job. I think innovating on top of T20, extension of fan engagement strategies is a very something that I'm very inclined towards. And then the cricket is doing a good job so far, and then I hope they'll do a good job.
Right. Great. So there we have it. Thank you so much, Pratik. Thank you so much for being part of our Sportscast, the first episode. For those of you who want to reach out to Pratik for either, just to even have a chat about sports or just have a chat about sports innovation, can actually go ahead, leave your comments, and if we find appropriate, we will make the necessary connect. So thank you, everybody, for being part of the Sportscast. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, thanks a lot, Pratik. It's been great. It's been great having you, and we will keep looking forward to see what Free Bowler has in the coming years, coming months, and also hopefully for it to be used in more sports as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Abhijit. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It was great. Yeah, I mean, it was a great beginning. I mean, I've loved the kind of questions, and then the way you've transitioned everything to this. It's amazing. Yeah, it just felt nice to be able to share thoughts. And then, yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Hope to see you soon for the second episode.